it's important that you live your truth. Okay, you live your truth and you seek your truth. And part of what I believe is, everyone has their own truth, and I think part of that truth has to do with with what your ancestors practice. Okay, and I think that's really important because our ancestors are the root of who we are. They left an example of what we should be doing. Now, this is not to say that I condone them ancestors that were like colonizing and keeping people in captive. We're not talking about that. Okay, there is a point where you should realize that if your ancestors were doing some stuff that they were not supposed to have been doing, you get to decide that it stops with you. Okay, so when I'm saying, I want to make sure I'm clear that when I'm talking about making sure that you connect with your ancestral bloodline, some of us, the ancestral bloodlines, they kind of, okay, it's some stuff they were doing they should not have been doing. So I'm definitely not condoning that. And if you know me, okay, and where I come from, we don't tolerate captivity. We don't tolerate putting people in bondage and making them do things against their will. So that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying connect back to your ancestral bloodline. In fact, some of us need to heal those ancestral bloodlines. Okay, like it's time to heal those ancestral bloodlines, especially if the ancestors were doing stuff they were not supposed to have been doing. And some of that stuff, it's like, you're kind of like seeing it, okay, pass through, or it's trying to come through you. All right, just because your ancestors did it and your mama did it, your granddaddy did it, don't mean you need to do it. So part of connecting with your ancestral bloodline, okay, for some of us, actually for all of us, I'm just going to say this, okay, for all of us, part of healing our ancestral bloodline, part of connecting with our ancestral bloodline also means we get to heal those things that our ancestors did, okay, because or what they didn't do. Okay, because that's important too. Because some of our ancestors, have debts that they were supposed to have paid and they didn't pay. And I'm not just talking about captivity. I want to make sure I'm clear. All right. When I'm talking about the debts that, ancestors owe, I'm not just talking about captivity. Okay. Some of our ancestors have debts that they owed, and some of those karmic debts have essentially passed down to us. So when we're talking about healing ancestral bloodlines, part of you, okay, you know what? That seems to be the thing that wants to come out. I keep wanting to say part of connecting with our ancestors mean to heal ancestral bloodlines. I'm getting this energy that many of y'all get to heal those ancestral bloodlines. It is time to heal those ancestral bloodlines, because whatever debt they didn't pay, okay, and some of you feel this, you know it, you've seen it. Whatever debt they didn't pay, that energy keeps walking. Generations after generations after generations, it's gonna keep walking. It's like that debt is looking to be paid, and until that debt is paid, okay, until that debt is paid, some of us are going to be like experiencing some traumatic stuff that we would rather not experience. And so it's like, we're looking, to get rich, and, we're looking, I'm not saying that's all of us, we're looking to get this and we're looking to get that. Yet at the basis, at the core of us getting what we desire and living a balanced life, many may not know this, is to heal those bloodlines, to connect with those with the ancestral bloodlines and healing them, Okay, healing and paying off that debt. All right. And there are different ways, that that this shows up when we don't. Okay, what happens when you don't pay those ancestral when you don't pay those debts that your ancestors owed? What happens? You start to see it in your life. You start to see energies of unrest, unease, the balance and equilibrium that you would experience. You experience disequilibrium. Everyone has a specific purpose and something that you're meant to accomplish on this earth. And a lot of times that gets disrupted because we're not connecting with our ancestors. We're not healing those bloodlines, and specifically we're not paying those debts that our ancestors owe. Okay. And for whatever reason, I'm thinking about, the issue or not issue. I'm thinking about, how like, especially for people of African descent, how there's been this huge issue about reparations. It's like, it's a discussion. It's a discussion. I don't even know why it's up for discussion. Like, that debt is owed and it should be paid. Different people are gonna, people are gonna feel different way about this. Okay, people are, and we know that people definitely feel a certain way about this. We're not gonna go too deep, y'all. We're not gonna go too deep, but we definitely get to, heal those bloodlines, pay the debt that is owed. And you see, by healing the ancestral bloodlines and paying the debt that our ancestors owe, a lot of times we don't recognize that something as simple as that can make the difference between peace and unrest on this earth. Okay, sometimes it could really mean that, because you have folks that are basically kind of like reliving some of the stuff that, well, let's just say that their life is not balanced the way that it should be. All right. So, hey, Desert, good to see you. Okay, so as usual, I start talking about something and then so I started out by, discussing the importance of not letting people, dictate your thoughts and putting you to sleep and making you think one way, and and we ended up talking about ancestors. Oh, things don't always go as planned, right? Yet at the same time, we are in accordance to divine plan. So Spirit just does what Spirit does. Hey, Abundance, good to see you. All right, so I'm gonna pull some cards. I just say ashe to that. Ashe to the words that were spoken. Ashe to the ancestors that continually provide wisdom and knowledge so that we can do better, y'all. So we can do better. Okay, because it really is about doing better. Even though a lot of us may not see it as that. And because sometimes talking about certain things, bring up internal scars that are not the easiest to deal with. And those scars, I want y'all to know that the scars that come up, they're challenging to deal with for everyone. Okay? They're challenging to deal with for everyone. Yet, is it better to just, pretend and act like, the scars are not there and things, we don't get to deal with them? So, Jason, hey, good to see you. You said, who are you? Hey, Erica, good to see you. All right, so heal those ancestral bloodlines, okay? And try to make the future a little bit better for the ones coming up, because a lot of us are just living for ourselves, not thinking about those who are coming after, what will happen. The children, the way that what they're experiencing. So, all right, so let's see what's showing up for y'all. I'm just gonna do, again, I said this was going to be very brief. I ended up talking a little bit more than I wanted to. Okay, tell me what you